on that trophy. Second season running that she's done so in the colours of Manchester City.
Oh, lovely footwork there from Weir! A special goal in a special game from Caroline Weir. That is world class. That is outstanding. A worldie from Weir.
Hello and welcome to this episode of MCW Fancast. I'm Emma, thanks for listening. Last game of the season in the WSL and it's mission accomplished for Manchester City women, who will be playing in Europe next season in the Champions League. City were able to secure their position in the top three following their 4-0 win away to Kelly Chambers Reading at the Select Car Stadium. On this week's podcast, we're joined by Dave and Paul as we reflect on both Birmingham and Reading and look ahead to Sunday, the FA Cup final against newly crowned champions Chelsea on the biggest stage at Wembley Stadium. But first, let's hear from our number one, Karen Bardsley, who was speaking earlier in the week following her retirement from football and the continued tributes to a true legend of the game.
Obviously, being at City for 8.5, 9 years has been an enormous part of my career. And, I've had the great fortune of being here from the start and, having the opportunity to work with some amazing coaches and incredible players and, be a part of this methodology that was so different to anything I had experienced previously. But if we go back even further, signing my first professional contract with Sky Blue was an amazing opportunity and, something I never really thought would come to fruition. I remember joking with some of my friends in high school when I was 15 or 16 years old, wouldn't it be cool if one of us went to the Olympics, and if we did, it's the only time I would ever get a tattoo. And, ended up going to the Olympics, and my friends were like, oh, you better live up to that promise. So little things like that, you just kind of never think really happen. And if you go even further back to that little 5-year-old girl that was walking into the grocery store one day and just wanted to kick a ball around, I got to sign up on the way out, and my dad was convinced that girls didn't play football. So just those little moments always stick out. The big saves always stick out. 2019 is one that's always going to stay in my mind, against Japan. The save against Norway in 2015 at the very end of the first half was a real crucial moment for me. But there's a lot of really great moments just watching the game grow, watching the game, at least in this country, go from, maybe 100 or a few hundred people in the stands to some of the incredible crowds that we've had at Derby, in Champions League, those sorts of things. And then, walking down the street and seeing loads of girls in football kits, seeing it on TV, in commercials, and seeing that perception change. That's been something I feel really proud of. Yeah, I'll have to get my surgeon to touch on some of the actual details for you. But yeah, essentially in 2019, in the quarterfinals against Norway, ended up tearing my hamstring tendon off the bone. And basically it needed to be repaired. And unfortunately, the repair and the rehab kind of fell right in the midst of the, the pandemic, that thing. And it just never seemed to be right. So we tried our best and I just never seemed to fully recover. Went on a brief stint on loan to OL Reign and, kind of found a new love for the game again out there. But yeah, unfortunately, the tendon went again, and it just never kind of was the same again after that. So after a few more surgeries and just got to the point basically where I wasn't going to be happy with my level, and I wasn't going to be happy with not living up to my expectations. So it also, the bigger picture played a role as well. Let's have it right. I'm not getting any younger. And the risk started to outweigh the reward, which is obviously something that I think we all need to take into consideration towards the end of our careers. But yeah, ultimately, that was what made the decision. It was just never the same again. Yeah, unfortunately, it's been quite a big part of my career. I seem to get injured at the worst times. But ultimately, it's part of my story. It's part of who I am. And, as much as it wasn't great and I didn't enjoy it, it, helped shape who I am today. So in some way, there has to be, I wouldn't say a reason that these things happen, but there has to be a way that it's allowed me to take some perspective and understand kind of like the things that are really important to me. But yeah, it's certainly, taken its toll on me psychologically as well at some point, but I've been really lucky to have the support, in my corner, and I've been able to reframe it into some really positive, opportunities going forward. It's still not really sunk in, to be honest. I don't think it's going to sink in until like the very end of the year, at the very end of the contract, and, obviously the game at Wembley is going to be pretty much like the last big event, but I'm still going to be going into the club for my physio. So, until that all kind of comes to a close, it's just going to feel like a super long off season, I think. But yeah, I think the most emotional moment for me, to be honest, was when I made the announcement to the girls and the coaching staff in the auditorium at the training ground, to have to walk in there and, basically stand up in front of everyone and say, hey guys, I'm retiring. I'm never going to play football again. Like that hit me. Like I got really choked up, because you kind of say it over and over in your head. You think of what you're going to say and how it's going to feel, and you think, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. But yeah, I'm not really sure what to expect when we get to Wembley. But ultimately for me, I feel really grateful for all of the amazing words and messages and photos, and they're really fun to look back on. And, I feel really honored and special to be a part of so many great memories for people, and to have been fortunate enough to grace the pitch with such talent, not mine, but everyone else's. And to see the likes of Steph and Lucy and Jill and, Tony Duggan and, those girls that I played with. But then now you've got Chloe and Lauren Hemp and, like Leah Williamson coming through, and there's just some amazing talent in the future. And I'm just so looking forward to seeing what's in store for English football. So yeah, it's going to be weird. I think the day after the FA Cup, I mean, hopefully I remember everything, but it's going to be really strange. I think that drive home the next day is just going to be really weird. Yeah, in a really strange way, the longevity of the injury has probably allowed me to find other interests and try to make those contributions in different ways. I was fortunate enough to be approached by the Manchester FA to be the INED on their board for women and girls football, and it just felt right. Sometimes it's, people's hearts are in the right places, but they don't have the insight or the experience to kind of actually follow through the right action. So being able to help advise on the board feels really important, and to be able to amplify the messages feels like something that's really important. But then also just like learn a bit more about what it actually takes to make these things happen, so the governance elements, like all the stuff that's not terribly exciting and fun, but ultimately necessary. So yeah, that's been like a really great learning opportunity for me. And I've been fortunate enough to be nominated as a chair for the Legacy Project, and that's been a really interesting experience for me, and it's made me take a look at things and understand like what I would want to do differently and maybe how I can help and those types of things. So again, all really ultimately advisory roles, but it's really opened my eyes to kind of what the next steps could look like, and ultimately what making a difference on a bigger scale feels like. Just the general respect for the game and the players. That's probably something I'd like to see change a bit more, in terms of, making sure that, if there's a big opportunity for a game or a tournament, that it should be in terms of parity, as I mentioned to you before, it should be on the same level. There's no reason in my eyes that a men's tournament would be any different to a women's or vice versa. The thing that I kind of want to challenge is just for people to start rethinking how they're going about doing things in terms of the way we speak about women's football, or the language that we use, or are we challenging people in the general public to start really examining what they're actually saying and bringing a bit more awareness to the decisions that they're making. Because from my experience, not just in England or all over the world, people in powerful positions don't always have the best understanding or insight into what a high performance environment actually looks like or feels like. And ultimately, I think what I'd like to see change is a bigger emphasis on supporting the person as a whole, not just the position or the number. That in professional sports and any sort of high performing environment, the person is treated and valued as a human being, and they're supported in a way that reflects that. It's not just a commodity, because that's really unhealthy. So those are just a few things that I really like to see change. But in the immediate future, continuing to challenge the perception of equality, obviously particularly in sport, but across the greater population as well. Like making sure that all young girls have the exact same opportunities as young boys. Like, I just don't see why that's a problem. So it might be unpopular, but I think it's the right thing.
I'm Lauren Hemp and you're listening to MCW Fancast.
Dave, Paul, thank you so much for joining me. How are you both doing? Are you well?
Yeah, good. Yeah, still a bit twitchy about the men's title race going down to the wire, but good week for the women, and good overall season, I think. So feeling very chipper and looking forward to Wembley at the weekend.
Hi, Emma. Over the moon. We've achieved what we set out to do. When we said we had 7 games to go, 6 games to go, 5, and we finally done it. Won every game, got that 3rd place, got Champions League, and now it's Wembley. So yeah, big week.
The last time we spoke, obviously, we were heading into that Birmingham game that obviously finished 6-0, the weekend final game of the season. We travelled down to Reading, finished 4-0. We'll look at the games, both games. We'll start with Birmingham. Dave, what did you make of the game itself and the result? I mean, obviously, a great home win.
It was eventually, yeah. I think Birmingham obviously needed to get something, otherwise they'd be relegated on the night. So they came with a very specific game plan, which involved a back 5. I think their plan was obviously try and keep it to 0-0 till late on, and then try and snatch something, obviously, to give them a chance of getting the 3 points. So it was a stubborn Birmingham side, which is to be expected. They didn't come out at all first half, and City, I wouldn't say City struggled a little bit, but it just needed to speed it up a bit and break that back 5, get that back 5 turning. And facing their own goal a bit more, which they certainly did in the second half. And once you had the feeling, once the first goal went in, that we would get a bucket load, because their game plan went a little bit out of the window, and that's exactly what happened. And then City really did tear into them. Yeah,
almost when the first game come, you knew that Birmingham would have to essentially kind of open up in terms of trying to hit us on the counter, and we kind of were able to utilise that in our favour, if you like, because once the game opened up, we were able to sort of get those balls in and create some space for ourselves to get the goals, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same as Dave in a lot of ways, but I think it's also symptomatic of the way the club's teams play, that they grind teams down with possession. And I think in the first half, Birmingham were just hanging on against some quality players, and a side that's really confident and playing well at the moment. And I like you guys, I just felt once the first goal went in that they would struggle, because they'd have to come out and have a go. but they didn't have the ammunition to do that. It was unlikely they were going to score more than 2 goals. And when the second goal went in, I think they just started to fall to pieces, and they were just bringing subs on for the experience by the end of it. I felt for them because I thought they gave it a good go in the first half. They really stuck to their plan, but it's not the sort of football that's very interesting to me. And you can see why they're probably going to go down, because there's not a huge amount of quality in that team. And once the game plan had failed, they just didn't quite know what to do. So I'm sad to see them go, because they're a founding member of the league, and I think they give it a good go, but they're just not quite good enough for this division. And we wish them well in the championship, and there's every chance they may well come up, because there are some decent players in that team, and with a bit of investment, I think they could do well in the championship, and they probably need it because they're quite a young team as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of seen that with almost Liverpool and Bristol, in terms of, they're 2 sides now. Obviously, Liverpool come back up to the WSL next season, having obviously won the championship. But, the likes of Bristol, that obviously last season struggled for results similar to that of Birmingham, but have kind of enjoyed their time in the championship and really been able to compete. And, I've spoke about how competitive that league is as well, that it almost gives them something for fans, Birmingham fans in particular, to start enjoying their football again, because they have had, probably since Mark Skinner's left, really misery upon misery, really.
Yeah, they've always been Birmingham, we used to struggle with Birmingham quite a lot. You'd have a lot of dour games, and we lost a few as well, because they were always a very competitive side. Like you say, under Mark Skinner, they got to the cup final. And other than the cup final itself, where we sort of, I think the occasion got to them that day at Wembley, they were always very close games with Birmingham. They were always a difficult side to beat and to play. I remember a couple of 0-0s, and I remember them beating us 2-0 when Ellen White was up front for them. So it is a shame to see them go, because they've always been there, as Paul says. So, but it's taken Liverpool a couple of years to get it right. It is a competitive league, that championship, and when a team comes down and you're starting again, and maybe you're putting a lot of young players in, it'd be interesting to see if they maybe go down the loan route and take a few players on loan with a bit of experience, because you've got Durham, who've been there a few years and usually challenge. You've got Bristol, as you say, who've got quite a lot of experience in terms of being in the WSL, and now you've got Birmingham. So it is a competitive league, and all the other teams are slowly improving as well. I think Crystal Palace are a team that improved over the season in that division as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they do. But I wish them well. I hope they do come back, because A, like you say, they're a founding member, and it's always good to play them. And B, it's not that far for an away game.
It's a bit, yeah. I mean, when they used to play at Solihull Moors, I used to enjoy going there. It's quite a traditional ground. Obviously, they're not playing there now. Obviously, St Andrews, but yeah, it was one of those games that I always really used to enjoy. So I hope at some point we can possibly meet them in a cup or something like that, maybe next season. But yeah, I am really, we're quite close as well to some of their supporters, like Craig Hadley and, Stacey and one thing and another. So yeah, I feel for them too, because they have really been through the mill a little bit for the last couple of seasons too. But hopefully they'll come back stronger and just have that little bit of time in the championship to sort of rebuild and find themselves again.
Well, they had a little swan song on Sunday because they beat Villa, didn't they?
Yeah.
At Villa Park. So that was a big win for them, because obviously bragging rights and what have you. So, it's not all doom and gloom for them. Maybe there are some players there that, younger players that are coming through and can gain the valuable experience in that league, which will make them better players when they come up as well. So you've got to take the positive out of it.
I think if we talk about the standard in the WSL going up, the standard in the Championship's gone up, and it's worth remembering that when United came up, they didn't run away with that league that season. They were comfortable in the end, but they didn't run away with it. So I think it'd be good for Birmingham to spend maybe a season down there rebuilding, as you said, their squad, and then we can, hopefully they'll come back, because it can't be great as a fan to sort of know every week that you're going to be struggling and being on the back end of some quite big defeats. So good luck to them, and we wish them and their support as well. And as you say, Dave, it is only an hour and a half away, rather than having to nip over to Arsenal at 8 o'clock on a Sunday evening, which is a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, the second half though, intensely busy. Obviously, Chloe Kelly came into the game very early on, substituted for Rasso. Kira Walsh assisted Stanway, which was great to see. Obviously pushing up front and getting involved and being creative, and it was an absolutely great finish from Stanway. But even better was the ball to Stanway to get the goal from Kira.
Yeah, well, we've seen it time and time again. I'm sure when we talk about the Reading game as well, there was a ball in that for the first goal to Lauren from Kira that was just outstanding. Absolutely. And we see it week in, week out. We almost, we think, oh, we're taking it for granted because she's such a good player. And we've spoke about Kira many, many times, what we think of her. People maybe who don't watch her every week think we go over the top about her, but, that's what Kira does. It was great to see Chloe and Lauren flying on Wednesday night in that second half. That's a little preview of what we couldn't look forward to next season, I think. Yeah. With both those players fit, both, when we really need to go for it, we've got some. I mean, that's not even counting Hayley into the equation as well. We've got a lot of talent of our own. But if you think about Lauren and Chloe flying at defenders on both sides and crossing that goal that Chloe knocked in, that could be just a little preview of what we've got coming next season from those two. And I can't wait.
Yeah. The link-up play was fantastic, and also for Alana Kennedy getting in on the goals as well, which is great to see.
Well, she's been a revelation this season, hasn't she? I think the first game she played, I think it was against Arsenal. She looked a bit shaky, but then she was just coming into the team. But since then, she's looked like a really accomplished defender for the rest of the season, and that's something that we can. Take some heart from, because I think when Steph got injured, I think we thought we might struggle there. So we've got Alana and we've got Ruby Mace, who's the best young centre-half in the country, in my view, the most promising young centre-half in England by a mile. So we've got really good cover starting to develop at centre-half. And of course, Alex Greenwood, who was the Supporters Club Player of the Year, rightly so, has been absolutely brilliant this season. I mean, she's been absolutely brilliant from start to finish. And it's great to see her in some of the WSL teams of the year. Now, I know those things are quite subjective, and it's great that Alex is in there, but Kira Walsh didn't even make the bench of one of the teams of the year awards that one site did. And you just think that is utterly insane, because she's without doubt, and I think her peers would say, the consummate player in that position, not just in this country, but in Europe. She's definitely world class. That's why she plays for England. She's the first name on the sheet for England. So we've had some great players this season who have not only turned up when we've been playing well. I mean, we've won 21 out of 23 games, but when we were in the mire, when we had hardly any players left, people like Alex particularly stood up and took a leadership role and dragged us through that awful period. So. I was delighted when she was presented with the official Supporter Club Player of the Year, because in my mind, she has been the best player for us all season by some distance.
Yeah, and she's made the shortlist for City's own Player of the season as well, and she's obviously getting that recognition not just from the OSC but from her peers as well.
Yeah, that's good. She's in the WSL Player of the Year. She's in, as you say, City's club Player of the Year, and rightly so. She should be in every one of these votes and polls, and she should be nominated for the lot, because she has, in my opinion, been our best player this season. It's not just been her, and Alana Kennedy's a good one, as you said, Emma, as well, because she did come into a struggling team, and sometimes as a defender there's a lot of pressure on you. You've got to remember, I think we bought Abby Del Kemper, and obviously that didn't work out, and she went back, and all of a sudden we'd let Gemma Bonner go, because Abby had come in, I think. And, we were a little bit short then. So he's gone out and got Alana, who's got over 100 caps for her country and had played in the WSL at Tottenham. So that was helpful. But then, as Paul said, she comes in, we get dumped 5-0 at Arsenal. If it wasn't her first game, it's certainly one of her first games, I'm not sure. And, it just sometimes takes players just a little bit, especially defenders, to know, to learn about the teammates and to learn. And you can see the progression Alana's made this season. And since Christmas, I think she's got better and better and better. And she's, really, really fits in now. And he's probably one of the first names on Gareth's team sheet, because she's so consistent and played so well. It's great to see, because, like I say, it was almost, the centre half thing was, I was beginning to think when Abby went back, I was thinking, I wish we hadn't got rid of Gemma Bonner, because she was such a good player for City. Yeah. Gemma when she was here as well. But he's addressed that situation with really, really good player who now everybody can appreciate, alongside Alex, who, let's not forget, when we brought Alex in, we were all worried she was going to play and Demi was going, because Alex was going to play at left back. And it's turned out she's one of the best centre halves in the league. So
I think it's always one of those positions, the centre back, who we've had some really good pairings across, across the seasons. And I don't think we've ever really had anyone that doesn't produce and consistently, when those sort of positions have come up, if it's due to injury, or if we've seen Esme Morgan drop into it, or Ruby's gone into it. Everyone's sort of, whoever's gone into that position have really shown their worth. I mean, I remember when, even in the beginning of not at the beginning of the season, but when we've had to sort of ask upon Jill to go into that position, even to an extent, even she kind of gave as good a performance as she, and you wouldn't have necessarily expected it, given it's an alien position for her, but she gave everything to it, and she, Alex obviously basically was talking her through it at times, but this is what we've come to, you know what I mean? Like players stepping up and really kind of giving their all to the team. And yeah, we've rode some really hard times this season, but I think we have to look back on these moments as a way of kind of building strength, building character, because we've shown that we can fight, and we've learned kind of lots of hard lessons that I think will stand us in good stead, especially when we kind of look into next season. Maybe
it's adversity, and it wasn't what we wanted, and it wasn't what we expected, but it happened. And as we always said at the time, I kept saying, I said it on the podcast, it wasn't an excuse why we weren't doing well, but it was a reason. People, I mean, that's why I think Alex was won our Player of the Year from the OSC, because of that period of time. She was outstanding. You just pointed out there, I remember the games where Jill played. By her own admission, Jill said she'd never played centre half in her whole career. So
probably never want to play it again.
No, she wouldn't. I mean, she got fed up after about 90 minutes, didn't she, in that game, and went forward and set up a goal. So, and Alex talking her through that and seeing her through that and holding that defence together when it really was makeshift, with Janine Becky playing at fullback at one point, Georgia Stanway playing at fullback, Jill playing at centre half because of our injury crisis. I think that's what's tipped the scales for Alex to win it, as well as her own excellent performances and consistency over a full season. It's that period as well, that period where she really did lead the team, because obviously Steph wasn't there. Whether she's had the armband on or not, Alex, it doesn't matter. She's led that defence and controlled it. You've got to remember the way City play as well. We like to play out from the back, so it's a certain style of play that sometimes takes players a little bit of time to get used to when they come into the club, because it's not what they've been used to at other clubs maybe. But it's all settled and it's all gelled, and that a lot of that credit needs to go both to the manager and also to Alex Greenwood from me, because she's been a shining star in that team and in that defence.
I think we have to give Gareth Taylor a huge amount of credit this season for two reasons. Because I think he's weathered a huge amount of pressure. There's expectations at a club like City, and I think if he was managing in the men's game, he might have got the boot. But the club has stuck with him and trusted the process, as he always says. And you can't imagine what sort of pressure he must have been under at the start of the season. Not just in terms of trying to get, having a 16-year-old kid as a reserve keeper that was having to do in the GCSEs and having to try to play for a professional women's football team. All of that, and then been at the expectation when the team was sort of pretty much back to full strength, be able to manage that team back to where he needed them to be, and to sort of integrate those players back in and the new players. So I think we have to give a huge amount of credit to Gareth Taylor this season. He's been he's really stuck with it and stuck to his principles, and the team have responded to that. And I think the fans have appreciated that. I think, to our credit on this podcast, we've never called for his head. We have been critical, rightly at times, because sometimes it's not been exactly what we wanted. But, I think we have to acknowledge that he's done a fantastic job. And why he's not been nominated as one of the managers of the year, I just think is utterly bizarre, particularly when Skinner at Spurs is one of the nominees, and they fell away so badly at the end of the season. Gareth should have been one of the nominees because he's had to manage the unmanageable, and Emma Hayes would have struggled with that injury list. Any of the other managers would have struggled, but he's come through it, and he's come through it with great credit, in my view.
I mean, it does come as a surprise. I think it's obviously something that we need to highlight, because not only has he not been recognised for his efforts this season, but even when it comes to player managers of the month, he's been overlooked at times. And for me, it's quite unbelievable, really, given what he's done, especially heading into the new year, consistencies in results and performances, momentum that we've built, and just for the lack of acknowledgement. Obviously, it's come from us and obviously the fans, and obviously, but for whatever reason, when it comes to, let's say, journalists and other media outlets, he's kind of overlooked and still not recognised as a quality coach. And he has been coaching the team well, and he has been giving tactical performances as a manager, and he has been doing what's been necessary. He has been making changes as we've needed them, and making those calls in games should they need to be made. And it's as if that's not even happening, but that's what we're seeing. That's what we've seen week in, week out over the last, let's say, 5 or 6 months.
Totally agree with you, Emma, because it is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous that he's not been nominated for it. Because I'm not saying he should win it, because often you find whoever wins the league wins the manager of the year.
Yeah, but the acknowledgement is
he should have been nominated.
Yeah.
I've got nothing against the other three that have been nominated. They're all good managers in their own right. Spurs probably have overachieved themselves this season to, where they finished. If you offered them at the start, I'm sure they would have took that and seen it as progression. Fair enough. But Gareth, as you just said, Emma, Gareth has proved himself for me this season as a tactical coach and a man manager as well. If you think about United away in the cup when we were 1-0 down at half time, he made a change in that game. He put Haley Rass on. It changed the game. He read the situation. It changed the game. We turned it around 4-1. Tactically, the Conti Cup final, he changed the game at half time. And we came out and we absolutely took Chelsea to the cleaners in that second half. They will get lucky to get away with 3-1. By their own admission, we were a better team. We didn't win that game because we were fluky. We won that game because we outplayed what has now been proved to be the best team in the country this season, Chelsea. They won the league. Paul mentioned before, we've won 21 out of 23 games.
Exactly, yeah.
And the two we didn't win, Chelsea away, we lost 1-0 and we missed a glorious chance to make it 1-0 with about 3 minutes to go. So we could have snatched a draw there. And the other one was Arsenal at home. So the best, we drew 1-0 when they scored in the 94th minute. So the only two games we haven't won against the top two sides, and we were unlucky in both of them. The performances were still there, even in both those two games. So the run is phenomenal going back to, say, basically December. It's title winning stuff. If we hadn't had the start we'd had, we would definitely have been in the mix for the title. I'm not saying we'd have won it, but we would have been in the mix for it. And I think, if we can give it a full run at it next season with obviously there might be changes. We know some players might be going, and there might be players that come in. We've got players who haven't, people are crying out for them to play. Why hasn't Angeldal played? Why hasn't, so-and-so played? They will play. They will play next season. Their time will come. But Gareth has proved that the teams that he's picked have done the job. And, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And just look at the performances and where we are. Now, for him to finish this season with a Champions League qualification, 1 trophy in the cabinet and possibly 2 trophies, either way, so however Sunday goes, that's an amazing achievement for him, considering where we were. And to not get nominated for Manager of the Year after that, I don't know what he had to do.
There is a weird thing. I'm a journalist by trade, and I think that the backstories of some of the managers seem to really attract, the WSL media pack. There's a couple of journalists who seem to be hopelessly in love with Chelsea and, just think that it can do no wrong. And Chelsea are a fine side and a fine manager, but there's a lack of objectivity at times for me. Gareth's backstory, he's played for his country. He played as a professional at a high level. He's been a respected coach at City for a long time. He's done all the badges. He's done everything he needed to do. And for me, the big difference between Gareth and previous managers is I always felt that we never had a plan B in the past. we now have a plan B. He tactically reads the game and makes the changes, as you say, Dave, when they need to be made. He doesn't tinker too much, but when he does make a change, you can see why he's doing it. And what he's also done, I think, is really improve the way we play as a team now. We play really good football. We play out from the back. So our centre-halves have to be ball players. We don't just hoik it from the goalkeeper to the middle of the park and hope for the best. We play from the back, we play through the midfield, and we try and get it out to the wings and try and play it through the middle in a sensible, progressive way. That's due to the coach. And he stuck to those principles through thick and thin. And 21 out of 23 games, as you said, Dave, is title-winning form. And we would have been in the mix this season, and we will be in the mix next season. Because if you look who he signed, Blackstead, fantastic, one of the best young players in Europe.
I can't wait to see what she can do and bring.
Exactly. Ruby Mace, every time she's played, she's looked to the man of ball. She can play with the ball at her feet. Our reserve keeper is 17, 18. She's England #1 in her age group. She's a massive prospect. We're bringing in, and we're talking about 2 players potentially coming from Atletico who are potentially in the mix. So we bought wisely, we bought well, and we could look forward to next season. And ultimately, Gareth has done for me. And as if you'd have said to me at the start of the season, in November, we would be top 3. We'd have beat Chelsea in the Conti Cup final, and we'll go to Wembley for a day out to face Chelsea again. I think people would have probably called the doctors in and said, you're delusional here. But actually, it's a lot of credit to not just to Gareth, but to the team around him as well, who have helped him through, but also to the character of the players. And ultimately, as well, the fans who have stuck with it, and understood that things would get better. All in all, we have to look at it and say, well done, Gareth Taylor. I think there's a lot of potential for next season, and we'll see him over a full season, and we'll be able to make a proper judgment on how good a coach he is at that point.
Let's move on to the Reading game then, because obviously the last game of the season, we discussed how much of a must-win it was, and again, it took us to half time, but Reading actually did really give us a game in the Majeski, Dave.
They did. Well, Reading are another one of those teams that on the day they can give teams a game. They beat Chelsea this season. We've had a few tussles with Reading over the years. They've always been close. I thought we were professional. I thought we controlled the game. Again, the first goal was critical because once we got the first goal, Reading had to come out a little bit, and that helped us out. Yet again, Kira Walsh, absolutely outstanding performance from beginning till when he took her off, obviously. Controlled the game, set up the first goal, just patrolled that midfield. Reading couldn't get past her. What a football. I just love watching her every week. I know I say it every week, but I just love watching her play football because it's just joy to watch because she makes it look so easy. And it isn't easy. It isn't easy to do what she does, but she makes it look so easy. The ball to Lauren Hemp for that first goal was just unreal. And it was good to see. I thought City played well. I thought Bunny played well. It was a good professional performance to get that. We just needed to make sure we won the game just in case, didn't we? And we did. So and then he started to rotate towards the end, thinking probably we were 3-0, 4-0 up, and thinking towards this Sunday, keeping everyone fresh and ticking over. So it was a great day out, and it was lovely weather, great turnout for the fans. Considering
sunburn me.
Yeah, well, it was a lovely turnout from the fans, considering yet again it clashed this time with a home game, but there was still a good turnout of City fans there to see them home on the last game, and I had a great day. Yeah, it was good.
For me, obviously, when the first goal came, I knew it was going to come, but because everybody, and I don't like this last game of the season because everybody kicks off at the same time, and obviously. For a lot of obviously the league itself to come down to the last day with the title decider, obviously third place, you've got an eye on sort of the Chelsea United game because people are like, Chelsea are going to win this game, but then United have got their first goal, and you're just like, you're like, I don't want to hear it. Sure, I'm just watching this game.
It is hard on the last game.
It is very hard, but I think it just shows how exciting the league has really become. I think, in terms of the quality, the performances, and the teams within the league itself, I think it has been, probably one of the most exciting seasons we've seen in recent times as well. But, like you said, to get the job done, and I think full time came, and I almost felt the celebrations was a little bit muted. We have just got third place. We have just qualified for Europe for next season. But it almost felt as if now there's still a job less to do. We've got to focus now on this FA Cup final, and it looks like they really want to go out and get a result and get the second piece of silverware.
I suspect the players themselves are a bit muted because they were thinking, with the form we're in, we should have been in the title mix rather than fighting for third place. And I share your view that Reading are a very good side, quite capable of turning anyone over on the day, and we did a really professional job. We scored two goals in the first half. Often we struggle in the first half to get a goal. We got a couple of goals. Bunny, I thought, played really well. Again, she's turning into one of the signings of the season for me, for any club. She's a really, really top class striker. And it was a potential banana skin that we dealt with really professionally. And don't forget, United went 1-up, and they're quite capable on their day of beating anyone as well. There's now 4 really, really good sides in the WSL. That's us, Chelsea, Arsenal, and now United. There's 4 now that can challenge for the title. And next season, we might see the likes of Spurs and West Ham join that club. So it becomes a much more exciting proposition, not just for us as fans, but for the league in general. The trick now is to build on the boost we're going to get from the Euros to make sure that we can get the crowds in that reflect the quality of football we're seeing. So, fair play to City. They could have quite easily made, dropped points there, but they did a really poor job. And I think, as you rightly say, they will probably had one eye on the FA Cup final as well. But job done. We're in Europe next season, so we can get our passports out.
Yeah. I think it was clear to see what our objectives were, Dave. And, obviously, we've been saying how, we need to win every game. We've done it, and we've done it well. I think that is very pleasing, especially, with now having the FA Cup final to look forward to round off, I think, what's been an exceptionally good season, especially when you look at the second half of it. As you said, if you'd have said this time, 5 months ago that, like you said, Paul, we'd have essentially, 1 trophy in the cabinet, third place finish with, Champions League for next season, and then, an FA Cup to play for. Just been saying you've been having a laugh, mate, but here we are. And now I'm in this position. I just want us to go out and get the job done. I believe we can. When we spoke about the Conti Cup final, I was very optimistic, but I believed that we could do it, and I believe that we can do it again on the bigger stage as well.
I think the fact we needed to win every game in the league to get that third place game, sometimes when a team gets to a cup final and then they sat in the middle of the table and they can't go up, they can't go down, you might see the form drop off a bit while the manager thinks, well, I don't want to risk her because I've got Wembley, I don't want to risk her, and you almost might get too much tinkering with the team because it doesn't matter in the league. They're safe. They're not going up. Well, City couldn't afford to do that. City had to win every game, so he had to go strong. There were certain games where he could take people off. He did that on Sunday because the game was won. It was 4-0, same against Birmingham. But it has meant that we've kept the form and we've kept the momentum going into this cup final now. Now we're going to play the best team the best team in the country. They've won the league, so no one can argue with the league after played all the games. They've won it. They've won it fair and square. I think Arsenal might be kicking themselves because they didn't lose to Chelsea over 2 games and they still didn't win the league. So that's up to the Arsenal fans to discuss. But from our point of view, as you say, Emma, on our day, we can beat any team. And I think we go into this final almost on a free hit, really. We haven't really got anything to lose here because Chelsea will be the favourites, as they were in the Conti Cup. But we know that we can beat any team on our day, including Chelsea. We have to play well, obviously. We've got pretty much full squad. So yeah, I'm confident, and I'm really looking forward to the day itself as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic, and it's like a reward. I think Paul mentioned on the last podcast that we're all on together that it's almost like a reward for us, for the supporters as well, for the season that we've had. Day at Wembley, we didn't think we were going to get this season. It's like a bonus, and to me, it's a free hit. We go there and we give it everything we've got, just like we did in that Conti Cup final. And if we turn in the same sort of performance that we did that day, the same levels, we've got every chance.
I just hope we kind of go into this again when, you know, the media are sort of setting up this game and obviously putting it on its little pedestal, that, you know, we're actually in the mix this time to win it. Because when we played the Conti Cup, it was almost as if Chelsea had won it before they'd even kicked the ball, you know, and the kickoff happened. So yeah, I kind of hope that we're given a little bit more, let's say, respect this time going into this.
I hope so, because, you know, basically it's the two form teams going into this. They've won their last 11 games, and the last time they got beat was in the Conti Cup final by us. We've won 21 out of 23 games. We are the two form teams. We're the two flair teams in the league, and we're the two teams that come to play. Whatever you think of Chelsea, they come to play. They don't mess about. They're like us. They go for it. I mean, that 3-3 at the academy a couple of seasons ago was one of the best games of football I've ever seen. It was comedy. You know, the coaches, you could see Emma Hayes was like pulling their hair out because they were just throwing everything at it. It was like, you know, attack versus attack for 90 minutes. It was brilliant. So I think that's what's going to happen at Wembley. We're going to have two really, really good teams, packed full of flair players, you know, packed full of strong defenses, world-class keepers, massive crowd. And unlike some of the other finals that we've gone to, where we expected to win, we went to play West Ham, we were the favourites. We're not the favourites, but we're up against our equals, our peers in this game. And I think if you ask Chelsea fans, they'd say the same. These are two top-class teams, probably the two best teams in the league when everyone's fit. And I think it's going to be a fantastic spectacle. And if we lose, it'll be a long journey home. It'll be a bit sad. But as you said, Dave, it's a free hit for us. We never expected it. It's a fantastic day out. And I think they're going to get over, you know, it's going to be a record crowd on the day. Two brilliant teams, two top-class coaches. I mean, what's not to like about that?
You feel Emma Hayes will be looking for a little bit of redemption, though, following the Conti Cup loss?
Yeah, that's the narrative that they'll take. You know, I mean, that's just the way it is. If they'd have beat us in the Conti Cup, you know, they might use that narrative for Gareth and say, well, he hasn't got much chance because Chelsea already beat City. None of that matters. What's gone? They've stuffed us in the league. Our place, it doesn't matter. All that matters is Sunday. 90 minutes, we've proven that in the Conti Cup final as well. It's cup finals can be, you know, it's how your players react on the day. And as long as he drills our players to all do the jobs and all perform to the highest of their ability, I'm sure they will. You know, it's a you know, massive stage. Not often the FA get something right, but moving the Women's Cup final to Wembley a few years ago was a great thing, and it's grown and grown and grown, and record crowds, you know, upon record crowds each year. That's great, and it really is a showpiece event. And you know, we all had to miss one when we played Everton and we weren't allowed to go, which was, you know, it's great that the team won, but, you know, also sad that none of us could be there for that one. So I almost feel like we're owed this one, and we didn't think we'd get it this season. So treat it as the bonus, treat it as a day out, go for it. I'm sure the team will give everything they've got. I'm sure they will, because that's the way they've played basically all season.
It almost feels like a game of rock, paper, scissors. You know, we've got 3 FA Cups, Chelsea have got 3 FA Cups, you know, and do you know, I am genuinely, you know, win or lose, just really looking forward to it. But I genuinely believe that we can do it. And like Paul said, you know, you've alluded to, you know, potentially, you know, a record-breaking crowd as well for this one. I think there was about 45 maybe a few years ago, and we're looking to have sold about 40,000 plus tickets. So, you know, come Sunday, we could well be looking at, you know, if we could get around 50,000, that'd be incredible. But again, this is a game where these two teams have met in a cup final at Wembley for the first time, and it's like I said, it kind of sells itself. It's going to be a huge spectacle.
Emma Hayes will definitely want to prove a point. If you watch the coverage on the telly in the second half, she looked completely bemused and lost by Chelsea were being taken, pretty much apart by City in the second half. It was a pretty even first half. She won't make that mistake again. Whatever that was, she's a really, really, really top class manager. So she will be tactically on this, and she'll be trying to get Sam Kerr into the game as much as humanly possible. And they've obviously got G as well, who's been a fantastic servant to them and to the WSL. She'll be in the squad for her final game. So they're motivated, and they are a really, really strong side. But so are we. And we've got a great manager. We've got great fans. They've got great fans. They've got a really, really, they sell out Kings Meadow. They're really, really strong set of supporters home and away. I've got a huge amount of respect for them as a club for investing so much in the women's game. I've got a huge amount of respect for Emma Hayes and all the players there, because they play the game and they conduct themselves in the way that we do. We're very similar. This is the two best teams in the country in front of a record crowd at the National Stadium, and they'll go at it. It might be one of those games. I might be wrong. It might be a 2-1 or 1-0. It could be a 7-6. It could be one of those.
What you're gonna get, do you?
Yeah, we just don't know, because they will. Both teams, once they've sort of done a bit of sparring at this, they'll go at it, and it'll just be a fantastic game of football to watch. And we should be proud that we could be part of a record-breaking crowd. 50. I think there's every chance we'll get 50,000 on, and isn't it great for all of those players that have struggled through injuries, COVID? Some of them will have the vintage that they were doing part-time jobs before they were professional footballers. They have got a day to stand in the National Stadium, national anthem playing, massive crowd. If you'd have said to some of those players in the past, you will play professional football, like Lucy Bronze and people like that, who were doing part-time jobs and then trying to be a professional footballer on top, that you will get that opportunity, they'd have thought you were mad. So
Alana said something similar in the week, didn't she? Where she said, "Oh, I've never played at Wembley," and the girls were like, "You're gonna love it," And you just like those sort of opportunities, especially for like our younger players as well. I mean, like I remember Stanway, Hempo, we're all like looking forward to playing at Wembley, and it is just a huge stadium, and there will obviously be a lot of people maybe heading down on Sunday that have not been there before, and it is like a really big day out for them, and I hope they have an amazing time regardless of the result. It's just one of those sort of events, occasions that you share it with everyone, and it's an incredible feeling that you're all there just to get behind your team for this massive event. And if you're lifting that trophy at the end of it, it is the most amazing feeling that you can get, honestly.
Chloe Kelly was on Ian Wright's excellent podcast, which I'd very much recommend to anyone listening to this. And she was saying that the FA Cup final last year was a bit of a strange one because there was no fans there. So she's looking forward to her family being there. I mean, they're from Ealing, literally just down the road from Wembley. So it's going to be great for the players and the staff that their families are going to be there. And it's going to be great for our fans who have stuck at it through thick and thin. The supporters club have gone to all sorts of trouble to get people to games at the bizarre times that our league decides that they should be played on Sunday night, 8:00, in London. So this is a reward for everybody, and it's a reward for the game. And as Dave says, it's rare that the WSL get it right, but they've got it right with this. They've pitched it right, and we should just enjoy the experience. I mean, I obviously hope City win, and I want them to win. But it's an advert for the game as much as anything else. And we need these sort of big showpiece events to grow the game to where it needs to be over the next decade or so.
I just feel it's a free hit as well, Emma, because we're the underdogs in this one, which we've never been before. We've already put a trophy on the table this season, which is more than we expected. And we've got our Champions League place. So we've got nothing to lose. I think at Chelsea, obviously, I know it's a double for us. It'd be like both cups, but all the narrative seems to be Chelsea going for the double, which piles pressure onto their players, to win the double. Whereas, we're there as the underdogs, and we've got nothing to lose, and we know we can play well enough to give them a game, and I think we will.
Yeah, I have to agree. I really do think we will. I have no doubt that we'll turn up and throw everything at Chelsea. And I'm really looking forward to just watching what will be definitely a good game of football. Let's get a prediction then.
I'm going for 7-6 with Paul. No, it's a hard one.
I can't even imagine what that'd do to your heart.
It's a hard one. You could get it cagey. We could get it like the 3-3, like Paul said before. You know, it is a hard one to call, really. I'm just going to go for a City win, so I'll go for 3-2 at City. We'll say it's a classic that we just edge.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 2-1 with a distinct possibility of extra time as well. And I don't want to throw penalties into the mix here because I don't want to get people's blood pressure even more pumped. But don't forget,
he just wants to get value for his ticket money. That's all. That's
I
all.
do. And the good. Do you know what the great thing about this as well? Just on a really boring technical point, I've been to the Carabao Cup finals and they're on at 5:30. And you don't get home till God knows when. The fact that it's on at 2:30 means that people get home at a reasonable time, even with extra time and penalties. And that's really important when you've got young kids there as well. So this is a really, they've got this just right, but there's every chance it could go to extra time. There's every chance it could go to penalties. But I think we can shade it 2-1 if we can keep Sam Kerr quiet, because that's going to be the key thing that tactically they're going to have to get right, because she is on fire at the moment. But then again, Bunny Shaw's on fire as well. So it's all, if you look, I was looking at their team at the last game, I was looking at our team, and there's not a weak player on the field in the starting 11s. 22 top class, full internationals mainly, who are going to be, totally motivated for this. So it could be a goal fest, but it's probably going to be a 2-1.
I'm just hoping Chelsea have just still got a few sore heads from their celebrations over the weekend, and essentially that'll stand as bold as well heading into it. But
what's your prediction? You haven't given yours yet.
Yeah, so I think it's a difficult one. I'm gonna go with the 3-1 again. That was a good score for me, and it's me in good stead. So I'm gonna say same again. But yeah, I just think he's, like you said, keeping Kerr quiet, isolating her from the game will be very important. We've got to keep at least 2 players on her without a doubt. But then, you're opening it up for the likes of, possibly Harder. You never really know what you're kind of going to get. Erin Cuthbert,
Wrighton.
Oh, yeah, Guru, she's been fantastic this season. Like you said, so you could just say, like Paul said, 22 players and every single one of them have really produced this season. Yeah, I am just looking forward to it. I think it's the perfect way to round off the season, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let's go and get it done, and let's get that trophy in the cabinet. Right, guys, I've really enjoyed that. Thank you both for joining me tonight.
Yep.
It's been a pleasure.
Safe travels down to Wembley. Safe travels down to everyone. I know the OSC have got a coach. City have put coaches on as well, I believe. So hopefully we'll have a good turnout. Everybody in good voices. Let's get behind the team and let's push on.
Yeah, well, safe travels for all the City fans coming down. We're all hopefully all behind that goal, and let's make ourselves heard. Let the team know we're all there behind them, no matter what happens. And we'll see everyone down there.
I'm on a City coach. It's only a tenner, so it's the club have definitely done right by the fans. They definitely try and encourage us to sell our full allocation. As you said, Dave, there's no doubt that the OSC will be there in full voice. I think the other fans will join in, and Chelsea will make themselves heard as well. And I think what that will give, that atmosphere that will be created by 2 really strong sets of fans who get behind their teams. For the neutrals, it'll be a fantastic experience. It'll really enhance their experience as well. So I wish everybody safe journeys down, and hopefully we'll get a result on the day.
We'll hopefully catch up in a week. Well, after obviously the Wembley game, the FA Cup final, we'll come together and discuss the season, the highs and lows, our expectations, maybe looking ahead to next season. Yeah, and that's always a podcast that I really look forward to doing. So that'll definitely be coming after obviously the conclusion of the weekend.
Yeah, give us a few days if you win, won't you?
Yeah, I think I'll need more than a few days, Dave.
Yeah.
But take care, both of you, and I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers.
See ya, man.
Bye bye.
Hi, I'm Esme Morgan and you're listening to MCW Fancast.
And that's it for this episode. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks to Dave and to Paul for joining me. Also, special thanks to Charlotte, who's been on editing duties for us this week. We'll be back next week with our post-match reaction to the FA Cup final, with a special show looking back on the season. If you're travelling down to Wembley, we're wishing all fans safe travels, and we hope to see you there. I'll be chatting to fans on the day for the podcast, so if you do see me, come and say hello and have a chat. Have a great week, everyone.